Life moves pretty fast. You don't stop and look around once in a while, you could miss it.
We've made it to 50 episodes, Mary.
Quite an achievement, I think.
Yeah, it's taken us a while, but we're there.
It has, but it doesn't, in a way, some of the episodes I feel like we did ages and ages ago.
Oh, yeah.
But then you look back and you think, God, it doesn't seem 2 minutes since we did that one. So it's a funny thing, time.
I thought of a great quote from John Hughes just then. I was going to say, life moves pretty fast. We'll get on to that. We're going to do John Hughes this week. We don't usually sit and do just fun comedy films, so it's definitely different.
It's been a different experience, this one.
Much harder, I think, for me, because I'm quite sort of analytical and stuff.
Yeah, these are just audience-friendly 80s movies. There's not really lots to unpick in terms of what he was necessarily trying to achieve with them, other than to, make sure an audience enjoys the experience.
Yeah.
John Hughes really captures a period in time.
Absolutely.
Most of his biggest work is between the period of the very early 80s and the late 80s. So you're only looking at really maybe 8 years, which in the grand scheme of things, not a lot of time.
But so many classics in just a small period of time.
Yeah, he had a huge impact on cinema at that time.
Yeah. So we're going to cover 6 of the 8 that he wrote and directed. He didn't direct all of the films that he wrote, but these are the major ones.
Yeah. He was a huge, very prolific writer for the time anyway. Even the films that he didn't direct, you will have seen. He wrote Home Alone for a start, and, you've got Beethoven in there, which was a 90s classic, Flubber, Miracle on 34th Street, Dennis the Menace, 80s and 90s things that we know so well. National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation.
Lots of National Lampoon,
Yeah, so he had a very big impact on the 80s and 90s, whether people knew that his name was on it or not.
He actually started out writing jokes for comedians like Joan Rivers and
that wouldn't surprise me, actually. Yeah,
interesting sort of career path, isn't it? To start just almost scribbling things on bits of paper, I suppose, and then doing what he did. So this episode we're going to be covering 16 Candles, The Breakfast Club, Ferris Bueller's Day Off, Weird Science, Planes, Trains and Automobiles, and Uncle Buck.
It was a new time for movies. People could go home and watch them over and over again, which kind of changed the way that movies were made and the type of movies that were made. Yeah,
they were made to please over and over again, weren't they?
Exactly.
So, should we start then with 16 Candles? From 1984.
It's a brand new year. I'm 16. Everything should be platinum. I should be happy, right? Right?
Oh, well, okay, this was a first-time watch for me. Stars Molly Ringwald, who I think it's fair to say was John Hughes' muse.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Yeah, she appeared in a few. I think they all sort of appeared in a few. She was part of this Brat Pack group of actors that were very popular in this stage. So she plays someone called Samantha Baker, and she turns 16, believe it or not, on the eve of and sort of in the shadow of her sister's wedding, her older sister, and she's got this dysfunctional family. They've got relatives arriving, everyone's rushing, getting ready for school and for work, and as a result they just completely forget that it's her birthday, and she has the worst day ever.
16th birthday.
16,
To be honest, I think it's absolutely shitty, really. I mean, she comes down the stairs and then literally are all just like, where's my briefcase? Where's this? Have you got your lunch? You're going to have to pay for your lunch today. You couldn't even make your lunch.
Yeah.
It's just like, hello?
Yeah. Well, you get that feeling. I don't know if it's the same with every John Hughes film, but she's not popular. She's kind of
in the no man's land, really, isn't she? She's definitely not a geek at all. She's just one of those invisible types. She doesn't fit into either of the groups. She doesn't really fit into a group. Yeah, she's also probably the most sane as well in the film. Like, everyone else is really caricatured, especially adults, and that happens a lot in these films. So she feels like no one understands her. You can get that.
Yeah. It's just not great, really. She just wants to be acknowledged. One thing I like about this is that John Hughes taps into something that I think we all do, and that's we kind of put expectations on different milestones in our lives, like across our lives, not just as a teenager. And ultimately, things never quite live up to plans that we make for ourselves.
I love how she thought like waking up from being 15 to 16 was going to have some kind of effect.
Some kind of magical
difference.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing, though. You've assumed that there's a line, that there's an end date between being a teenager and being an adult, and that all your problems and insecurities are just going to magically disappear overnight. But they don't, and that's kind of life. And I think the film's quite realistic in that respect. Yeah. I think it's quite funny. She wakes up and she's like, no boobs, I know how she feels. I haven't got mine yet, so just hang in there. So I like that. And the other thing I think he's really good at is capturing what teenagers consider a priority in their lives as teenagers.
Oh yeah, he really gets teenagers. It's like he never forgot what it was like to grow up.
Yeah, it's like it could have been written by a teenager. You can tell he didn't.
He has a serious problem with parents and through his movies.
And school. Yeah, he doesn't like either.
Like they're very relatable to teenagers because they're just adults are not portrayed very well in his movies. No, they're usually at all.
Dumb, aren't they? They're dumb and they're people that you can mess around with. Yeah. There's a big montage during the opening credits as Samantha gets to school, and you can see that everyone and everything is all about appearances. It's not just how you look and what you wear, what social circle you're in, who you're with, who you've gone with, and that in particular is something that occupies Samantha's mind, because she's got this huge crush on Jake Ryan, who's this popular jock in the school.
He's a man in a high school who does not look like he's a high school student. You look at all the rest of them and there's this dude. It's like you look like at least a college student. What are you doing here?
Yeah, whereas someone like Anthony Michael Hall's character looks like he's 9.
Oh my God, he's so annoying. I just want to slap him around the face pretty much the entire movie.
I like him. It's problematic, but I like, nice.
I had a real problem with him when he first came on and sat on the bus with her. I was like, that is like pivotal sexual harassment.
Yeah,
I was just like, that is really, really bad.
Yeah, there's lots of things in this that haven't aged very well, I suppose. More so than I think any of the other ones we've watched for this episode. Yeah, so Jake Ryan, he's kind of this crush that she's got. It's not based on anything other than the fact that she likes the way he looks.
He's absolutely gorgeous. I mean, I totally get it. Yeah. I absolutely get it. I would be exactly the same. Totally get it. You don't need anything else, really.
That's it. If you've got nice hair, you don't need any charisma. It's just...
just his face.
They don't interact very much either. There's a nice scene, though, where she's upset that he doesn't know she exists, and her dad says to her, well, that's why they're called crushes. I think that's a very clever way of putting it, I guess. I don't know if that's why they're called that. And obviously Anthony Michael Hall, his actual character name is Geek. And I think that summarises the kind of roles he plays. He's this overconfident nerd.
I mean, it's good that he's got that confidence. I don't know where the hell he's got it from, because if he's in that geek group, I don't know where he's got this kind of inner confidence that he's, going to succeed.
Yeah, proper cringe, isn't he? And
oh God, yeah.
He's just like this excited puppy, and he's just trying to impress everyone.
Actually, that really does actually pretty much sum him up.
He's just learning that he can hump things, and that kind of thing. And he misreads all these situations, and he fancies Samantha, but Samantha doesn't fancy him, and then he facilitates a bit of a relationship there. And then the last thing, really, I guess, just in terms of like comedy style, you can definitely see similarities to things like National Lampoon.
Yeah.
I don't know how to describe them. They're kind of like little absurd moments, little glimpses of side gags and recurring side gags that just turn up in the background. They're not at the forefront. They catch you off guard, I think, because you get involved in the story, and then just as the scene ends, you'll see something. But one of my favourites is at the dance, and there's some parents who are like forcing their son to go in and dance, and every now and again you just see them dragging him back in and closing the door and holding it, and he says, I won't tell you again, start acting like a man. And another one's Joan Cusack plays a girl who's in a neck brace, and every now and again it just cuts to her and she's trying to like drink out the water fountain.
I know it's John Cusack's in this as well.
Yeah, they're both in here, yeah.
He is another one, John Hughes, that had a kind of a talent for picking out future like stars.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you see a couple of faces in these films.
Yeah, there's a couple in his movies that you see and you go, oh, that's a big star now.
Yeah, Kevin Bacon turns up in one of mine later.
Yeah, I've got Iron Man in mine, Robert Downey Jr.
Of course, yeah. I guess just leading on to that last point about it being quite problematic, one of the like gags that happens is this exchange student who's randomly staying with them,
very random,
called Long Duck Dong. It's just, the film's okay if you switch your brain off. It's perfectly enjoyable, but if you were to recontextualize it and look at it today, by today's standards, it's all pretty bad. It's quite sexist and racist, and there's some homophobic slurs in there. There's maybe a date rape kind of plot point going on. It's not ideal.
Yeah, but no, not really.
Like I said, if you can switch your brain off and go,
just
it was a
enjoy
different
it for what
time.
it is.
Yeah, then it's not so bad, and it's a fun watch, I suppose. So yeah, that's all I've got to say really on that.
Okay. So moving on from there, his next movie, the very next year, 1985, which was The Breakfast Club, which is probably his most famous film.
Absolutely.
He's definitely remembered for this more favourably than any of his other films, I think.
I'd agree with that.
What in God's name is going on in here? What was that ruckus?
What ruckus?
I was just in my office and I heard a ruckus.
Could you describe the ruckus, sir?
And this really did bring the Brat Pack together. Again, you had Molly Ringwald in there, and again, you had Anthony Michael Hall in there. This one had Judd Nelson and Emilio Estevez, Ali Sheedy, all kind of huge 80s teenage stars at the time. It's an interesting film, this. Very, very simple, I think, when you break it down. It's basically about these kids who are all in detention on a Saturday for the entire day, which seems a little bit like...
Yeah.
I mean, extreme to me. 8 hours.
Quite a long time. It's a nice room to be in, though.
Yeah,
Nice
it's
library.
very, very extreme. And they're all in detention for different reasons, and they don't know each other. And basically, the film's about stereotypes, really.
Yeah.
Which kind of rules a kid's life in a way. But it's interesting, this film, so at the beginning, you see how their parents see them, which I thought was very interesting. So Claire, played by Molly Ringwald, her dad doesn't like leaving her at the school, and he doesn't see her leaving school to shop as an issue. And he'll make it up to her that she had to go to detention. I'm just like, the hell? So that's kind of weird. So she's obviously pampered and, all this, and you can tell that from the beginning. And then you've got Andrew, Emilio Estevez, and he's a sports guy, and his dad's just like, you can fool around, but don't get caught. Do you want to ruin your sports chances, basically? Scholarship.
Yeah. I know what you mean.
And then you've got Bender, Judd Nelson, he walks to school. There's no parents around, which says a lot, and you learn a lot more about his kind of upbringing later. Then you've got Brian. It very much looks like the word brain.
Oh, yeah.
He is the brain of the group. He is the geek. And his mother's furious and said he better make sure he uses his time to study. And he says, I don't think there'll be time for me to study. I don't think we're allowed to do anything. And she's like, well, you better make time. She's absolutely furious at this because this is not, which I think is a normal parent kind of reaction to a
It's probably the most normal.
Yeah. And then you've got Alison, who's Ali Sheedy, and she gets out of the car and her parents just drive off with like no recognition at all. She just so that says a lot as well. She's just completely, her parents are oblivious to her, really.
Yeah.
So that I thought was very interesting. And like I say, this is a film very much about stereotypes and not judging a book by its cover. And in a way, each plays up to their stereotype, really, because it's easier that way. So Claire's the princess and Andrew's the jock, and Bender especially is the bad boy, and he really plays up to that image because that's what they see him as anyway, so why the hell not?
Yeah, like you say, it's easier to get through life meeting people's expectations of you.
What I found really interesting about this is, in many ways, the kids are more intelligent than the teacher, which is scary.
So
it's
funny,
a scary thought, really.
Yeah.
I did notice in this, there were moments like, there's over-the-top moments anyway. I mean, he's like Bender climbing through the roof, in the ceiling tiles at one point, and them, smoking weed and dancing and stuff in there. There's lots of like over-the-top kind of bits in there anyway. But the scene where the teacher, Mr. Vernon, he just goes way over the top where he like threatens Bender and is like trying to get him to fight him.
Yeah.
I thought, wow, that's kind of... Does that happen?
I think sort of in the place of where a normal film would have a villain, John Hughes has definitely vilified teachers and adults.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a very fun movie. There's lots of really funny moments, and it's so relatable that, like, the kids arguing at first, not getting on, and then kind of finding ways to get to know each other, and that they're actually more like each other in certain ways than they would have thought. And it's very interesting. They're all under kind of different pressures. So Brian, the reason he's in detention is he had a gun in his locker. Well, because of the pressure of his grades, he got an F in like woodwork or something ridiculous like that, and it was going to ruin his GPA, and he bought a gun. Granted, it was a flare gun, so I don't know how successful that would have been, but still a gun. And then Andy's under the pressure of winning and having to achieve, whether he wants to or not, really, whether it's something that he actually wants to do. And then you've got Claire, who's got to keep up this perfect image.
Pristine.
Yeah, people see her a certain way. There are quite serious themes in there in places. You've got Bender with his parents, he had a cigarette put out on his arm, and like there's a scene where he plays out like, a scene at his house, and very violent, very volatile. And explains a lot about why he is the way he is. Yeah.
Like you say, everyone's kind of messed up.
Yeah.
To the same degree, just in different ways.
Yeah.
And that's how they come together, isn't it?
Yeah, I think the signature song as well, Don't You Forget About Me, it's quite fitting as well, because they know that whatever they went through that day, they're not going to speak to each other at school on Monday. They won't speak to each other again. Yeah. It was just this passing thing. However much it had an effect on them, that's it.
Yeah, they're not going to reinvent the wheel that is school and cultural norms.
They know what it's going to be like when they go back to school on the Monday, which I think is so sad. And that Don't You Forget About Me is quite a good song to have there. And also there are a few things that they do at the end so that they do remember each other. So Claire gives Bender an earring. Yeah, an earring. And then you've got Ali Sheedy's Alison taking the logo off Andrew's jacket. And so there's like little things that, they keep. Yeah. But yeah, I always enjoy watching it. It's one of those, I don't think anybody could sit there and not enjoy it. It's just a really easy watch.
Yeah, I really, really like it. Beneath all of the comedy and the jokes and the gags and there is quite a realistic element to it. Like you said, this is kind of the reality of what really happens. And I think there are messages in these films. Sooner or later, you'll be like, oh, it's not just fun and games.
Yeah, no, it's a good one, I think, and there's a reason it's lasted. It still resonates with people because these characters are so relatable. They'll always be relatable. It doesn't matter what new generation comes up, they still relate.
Yeah, I love it. So we're mixing up the order just so that we can take turns.
Yeah.
But Ferris Bueller's Day Off is the next one on my list. This is 1986.
Bueller.
It's been a very long time since I saw this, and I don't think I enjoyed it too much the last time I saw it. I don't think I got it.
I wanted you to have this one because I have only seen it once, and I know I didn't really like it that much.
Well, good news. Really enjoyed it this time. I just think before I just didn't get it. I think you have to be of a certain age to kind of fully understand what it is, because it's a very different style, I suppose. So this one, I don't know if he's meant to be 17 or 18, but he's sort of last year of high school. Ferris Bueller. It opens and he's convincing his parents that he's horrifically unwell, and he can't go to school, and he puts on this sort of like his best cutesy baby voice, sort of golden mummy's boy act, and licks his palms so they're all clammy, and as soon as they leave for work, he's up and he's getting ready for this self-proclaimed, well-deserved epic day off because he deserves it. And it's the thing about his character. He's really charismatic and he's very intelligent and obviously very popular. which is rare, I think, for a John Hughes lead. But he doesn't actually come across as a very nice guy to begin with. He's not likeable.
I think that's my issue with it, is I just couldn't get on board with him as a character, which I find very difficult.
These first opening scenes, it's the hardest because he's just entitled and spoilt and arrogant.
He's so arrogant. Oh.
Yeah. Not only is he lying to people and deceiving people, but he's a mastermind at doing it. He's the master manipulator of adults. It's the 9th time he's taken a day off in a single term. He complains that his parents haven't bought him a car, and instead he's got this rubbish computer, which, I mean, to have a computer was
in the 80s, enough. It was, yeah.
And that he's above going to school because it's childish and stupid and who gives a crap and all this stuff. So yeah, it's very hard in the beginning to kind of connect with him and like him. What he does is he peer pressures his best friend Cameron, who's genuinely unwell, to convince him to let them borrow his dad's prize Ferrari, which has never done any miles.
Absolutely terrible idea.
Yeah, and they jailbreak his girlfriend out of school, and then they have a day off in Chicago. So up until this point, he's like a really bad influence. But I like films where you get to spend a day with characters. You know, it doesn't have to be a day, but it's a significant stretch of time with the characters to the point where you start to understand them a little bit more. And the ones who you at first thought might have been unlikable, you actually begin to enjoy. And in Ferris Bueller's case, I think we end up rooting for him, even though, you know, on paper what he's doing is not good. But you find yourself like wanting him to evade capture from the principal all day and have a great time. And you see what's happening in the school, and you see how zombified all the kids are and how disengaged they are, that you think he's having a much more enriching experience outside of school. And oh god, the teachers. I mean, the principal's one thing. He's just, again, he's this comical, over-the-top villain. You know, he's hell-bent on stopping skivers, pretty much. And then the teacher, Bueller, you know, they're just dull. So I don't blame him for doing it. I think it's a fantasy film, really. I don't think it's intended to be literal. And as a result, it's become a kind of legendary status. And Ferris Bueller's this hero. He doesn't exist, obviously, but he's this hero, and kids will want to be like that. And adults wish they had that outlook on life and stuff.
It's another reason why that film's lasted. It resonates because all kids want to have that day, you know, and get out of school and go and have this amazing experience. And that's never going to change generation to generation. Yeah,
I think it let teenagers live vicariously through Ferris Bueller. You know, he rebelled in a way that they would never have gotten away with, so they didn't have to. You know, and it's an escape, isn't it? And the fantasy of just being able to do whatever you want. And I should mention as well, he talks directly to the camera. Sorry, I should have said this earlier. He breaks the fourth wall all the way through. You know, he tells us things about people that he's with. He tells us things about himself. He asks us questions. You know, he says, if you had access to a car like this, would you take it back right away? Well, no, neither would I. And then goes on his day, and he does little looks to the camera and stuff. That's what I meant by the style being so different.
Yeah.
The whole thing circles back to this motto that he has. Life moves pretty fast. If you don't stop and look around every once in a while, you could miss it. So it's a seize the day film, and honestly, that is a really good message. And it's one of the best ingredients for a feel-good film, and that's the category I would put this in. It's very feel-good. Though I was questioning whether Ferris was actually the main character, because Ferris has already got everything he wants apart from a car. And he does everything, and he doesn't have any consequences. But Cameron, his friend, is the one that's like not in his comfort zone. He's not happy. He's
more like a real person.
Yeah. And there's this other thing that doesn't really get shown, but he's in constant fear of his dad, and we never see him. But it's something that's making him physically and mentally very unwell, and he's having this existential crisis. And the events of the films lead him to have a bit of a epiphany and a revelation. It's just interesting. I don't think Ferris is the main character, but I don't think he's the focus of the message in the film, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I totally get that, yeah.
Ferris's girlfriend says to him, you knew what you were doing when you woke up this morning, didn't you? And it makes you think, oh, has Ferris planned the whole thing, not for his own benefit, he's done it for his friend, and that's quite nice, even though they crashed the car.
I wouldn't find that funny at all. I'd never speak to him again.
Fair enough.
frankly.
Yeah, we never find out the fate of Cameron. Actually, we never learn what comes of it.
It's probably because it would be absolutely awful. That's why.
Probably, yeah.
Be grounded for life.
I think so. Yeah. But other than the sad parts, loads of iconic scenes. I mean, the museum scene, I don't know what it is. Even not just in this film, it's one of the most beautiful scenes, like, in a film. I can't describe it. It's very out of place in a way for the film, but it's, I don't know, it's very emotional.
My favourite scene was always the Beatles song
Yeah,
on the parade float.
Yeah.
That was always my favourite part. Even though, I mean, as a film as a whole, I didn't really enjoy it, but I always loved that scene.
Oh, yeah, it is good for an 80s film not to have a big dance sequence in. Could be
it's kind
unusual.
of standard.
Yeah. What else do I like about it? I love the Save Ferris campaign. The rumours just spread and spread and spread that there's something horribly wrong, with him. No matter where he goes, just little background details. He's in the newspaper. He's on the ticker tape at the ball game.
And you've got Jennifer Grey in this as well, playing his sister, who just is hating every minute of it. It's like, what is this
He gets
thing that people have about him? He's this awful little brother.
Yeah.
So what the hell is this?
Yeah, so funny. But he's outsmarting them all.
Yeah, and she sees through it all. She sees through everything because obviously she's the sibling. I think it's really interesting as well. This came out the same year as Dirty Dancing.
Oh, okay.
Which is interesting because she just blew up. I mean, she is Baby. And will always be known as that. But it's funny that this came out at the same time. I have a feeling this might even have come out first.
Yeah, she did look a bit younger in this one, I think.
Yeah,
Slightly.
so it's an interesting one to know that they come out in the same year. 'Cause very different parts. Very, very different parts.
And then no one ever saw her again.
Pretty much, yeah.
I don't remember anything else. Never mind.
Oh, well.
But yeah, no, I enjoyed that a lot more this time around.
Good.
It is funny. And it is feel good. I think that's what it is. Yeah. Cultural staple for a lot of people, that one.
Like many of his others. So we're then jumping back to the year before with Weird Science.
Have you ever wondered how sad it is that your son's only sexual outlet is tossing off to magazines in the bathroom?
Yeah. So Weird Science is a bonkers movie, I think is the only way you can say this, really.
It doesn't make sense.
There's no sense to it. There's not very much logic. This is very much a guy's movie. This one was made for the boys. So this is two high school nerds, basically. They've got, no chance with women, girls whatsoever. And they decide how the hell this even happens. I don't know. They're watching Frankenstein on the telly. And again, this is Anthony Michael Hall in this. And is it Ian Mitchell Smith?
No, it's got an L in it, so I don't know.
Yeah, it's Ilan Mitchell.
Island?
Mitchell Smith.
Elaine?
I don't know. I can't say his name. But these two guys, so they're at Wyatt's house, which is Ilan Mitchell Smith, if that's how you say his name. And Gary is his best friend, and he's staying overnight. They're watching Frankenstein, and Gary decides we should make a girl on the computer. So they've just got this software that they
Like
can
you
make
do.
a girl with, which is weird in itself. It's like, what is this software that you've got?
Yes.
They're like feeding like pictures into a printer or something, and giving it ideas and like, Albert Einstein.
Yeah, like
things
intelligence.
like this, and it's so weird. It's like any boy's dream, really.
Yeah,
if it was this
Build-A-Bear,
easy, and then
isn't it?
and then they've got this little doll, and they've attached it up to these like electrodes, and then they hack into military power to get more power to make this, and then they make this girl, and it's Kelly LeBrock, who was gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous, 25 at her absolute peak, and. Yeah, I mean, they are dumbstruck, obviously, because they're these two nerds, and she is drop dead gorgeous model.
She looks like Angelina Jolie.
Who
I thought
showers with them and just
so
kisses them, and and all of this. That's just absolute dream for them. It's that absolute boys' fantasy movie, basically, and it's bonkers. Like they go out on the town, and now there's one. I had a real problem with one particular scene in this. Real problem, and to be honest, I don't know how they got away with it at the time. Really,
yeah. Let alone today.
So they go to this bar. It's like a blues club kind of thing, and it's horrendous. So he gets drunk and he's like putting on this voice of and it's horrendous. He does it for ages. It goes on for about 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And he's sat surrounded by black people. I don't know how they did the scene, because I would have been so utterly offended if I were them. Where did they think that was going? Like, that was okay. I mean, it's funny. He does it well. It's funny, He's funny lines. And
it's that thing again, if you switch your brain off, it's funny, but it's
so offensive.
Yeah.
And I had a real problem. Like, as soon as it came on, I had a real problem with it.
It just makes you uncomfortable, doesn't it?
It does. So uncomfortable to watch. And it's so insulting to them.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like, it's like we said, there's no logic to it. It's complete fantasy. Mm-hmm. You've got, like I said, Iron Man turns up. He's one of the bullies in this, Robert Downey Jr., who's got one of the girls that one of them wants. And you've got Bill Paxton in this as the older brother, who basically just extorts his younger brother for money. And, I'm going to tell Dad this, I'm going to tell them this.
He reminded me of Biff from Back to the Future.
Yeah, very much so. And he's got this like flat top haircut. It's just absolutely ridiculous.
Oh, it's so stupid. Isn't there a bit where like Mad Max bikers come in and for no reason?
And something goes, they decide to make a girl for the bullies later on and accidentally create a missile that comes through the middle of the house, and everything in the house starts disappearing and flying outside. It's bonkers, absolutely bonkers.
It's not even science. The title's wrong. It's got nothing to do with that.
It's like an 80s version of Frankenstein. It's like an 80s Frankenstein homage.
Yeah, I suppose.
It's extremely weird.
Yeah.
There are some good bits in it, though. I think Kelly LeBrock's great.
Yeah,
I really like her.
Good.
She's great.
She has some good lines.
So yeah, I don't know. I think it's one that I sort of enjoy. I don't know. I really don't know how
if you switch your brain
it.
off, it's fun and it's enjoyable. But the second you take a step back, you go, huh? The whole thing's very strange.
It is. It's extremely strange. Yeah. I like the song, the use of weird science in the film.
Yeah.
There's parts of it that I like that work, but then there are bits that I have a big problem with that just really haven't aged well at all. So yeah, I think, to be honest, the little said about this really in this day and age, the better.
Yeah,
it's a very 80s boy film, but it's not aged well. And I think we should move on from it, because there's a lot better things that we can do.
It should stay a memory for those who saw it at the time.
I think so.
Yeah, but there's only so far I can accept literally no sense.
I don't think it needed any sense. The boys were looking at Kelly LeBrock.
Yeah, that's probably it.
They were interested in anything else. It didn't matter what else was going on. They just wanted. They were a bit like those two lads, like the two bullies. As soon as they saw her, they were just like, just followed her around like sheep and just wanted her. I think that's basically probably what the entire audience was like.
Yeah,
probably like, forget what else is going on. Just put her on the screen.
Fair play, I suppose, but yeah, one of the other ones that hasn't really aged too great.
Yeah, not very well now.
One that I think has that I've had on my list for ages, which is Planes, Trains, and Automobiles.
I know you, don't I? I'm usually very good with names, but I'll be damned if I haven't forgotten yours.
You stole my cab.
And this is an outlier as well, because this is the adults.
Yeah,
all the others are
teens.
from the kids' point of view, but this is a film with adults. This one,
yeah, it's interesting to see how it translates, because it's the same kind of dialogue and it's the same kind of comedic ideas and situations, but not being dealt with by that age group. So yeah, I think it's like The Breakfast Club in a way, because it's a very straightforward plot. So it's basically just an A to B road trip gone wrong. That's kind of it. Obviously there's more mobility there than The Breakfast Club, but in terms of like simplicity. So it's 2 days before Thanksgiving, although you wouldn't know. You might as well have just made it a Christmas film because it's pretty much the same thing as snow and turkeys. So Neil Page, who's played by Steve Martin, he needs to catch a flight from New York back home to his family in Chicago, and then pretty much every conceivable thing that could go wrong does. So there's delays and detours and breakdowns and this big storm that's prevented all the travel and lots of human errors on his part as he goes. And he crosses paths with a guy called Del Griffith, who's played by John Candy. And I'd never seen a John Candy film before, I don't think, before doing this episode. No, I don't know if I've missed a lot of films or whether it's just this one and Uncle Buck that I've really missed on.
He's done some of the ones, but there probably is
the two big
some
ones.
of his biggest ones,
especially
planes, trains, and automobiles is I think very highly thought of.
Yeah, he's really good actually. He's looking at him, I thought, oh God, he's going to be annoying, but he's really enjoyable. So in this, he is the polar opposite of Steve Martin's character. He's like an irritable. Oh, sorry, no, Steve Martin is an irritable pessimist.
Yeah, he's a straight guy in this, rather
really
than
unusual.
Sort
of a cynic, I suppose. Yeah, whereas Del is this boundlessly upbeat and positive. He reminded me of Ned Flanders. That's the only way I could put it. even had the tash. So even when there's like really bad news, he's just like, chuckling about it. And he never stops talking. So yeah, they're not a good pairing, but they're almost forced together because they're just stuck when this flight's cancelled. So yeah, like I say, Steve Martin's not the comedy character as such, but I think what's good about that, and it does suit him very well, is that as the film does descend and things get more desperate and it becomes more about survival, he sort of unravels and freaks out, and that's where the comedy comes in. So you kind of get that contrast with his character. I like that. And then, yeah, as they sort of go through, their situations become more mutual. They start to get along a little bit. There's a bit of common ground. And then by the end of the film, it's a bit more sort of heartwarming, I think. And it does have that Christmas film feel, even though it's not set at Christmas. In terms of the comedy in this one, because there's less main characters going on, I think it's also less sort of dialogue or verbal comedy. You get a lot more slapstick, or more opportunities for physical and performative kind of gags.
Mm-hmm. I feel like the quality of this is higher.
Yeah.
You're working with like proper actors, not kids, and not that the kids aren't proper actors, but you're working with like seasoned veterans, really, and who really know what they're doing.
Yeah, and they really thrive at doing these sort of situational set pieces. I love the scene in the bedroom at the hotel, the first hotel they go to, and they see there's just one double bed, and there's just silence. Again, not a lot of non-verbal comedy, and they're just looking at each other back and forth for ages, thinking, oh God, what's the other one thinking? And then the one of them says, do you want to take a shower? No! No. And then when they wake up in the morning, spooning, and he's like, where's your other hand? It's between two pillows. Those aren't pillows. And then immediately they're like, yeah, did you see that Bears game last night? They just can't cope. I enjoyed that. And lots of little side characters come in. There's the lady at the rental car desk who he swears at 19 times in the space of a minute and stuff like that. You can definitely see the influence again from things like National Lampoon and films like Airplane. And then in turn, the influence it's had on things like Rat Race. I know that's also based on It's a Mad, Mad, Mad World and stuff. So yeah, as a verdict, I mean, it was funny. I wouldn't say I found it outrageously funny, but again, I think it's been done before, and I think it's been done slightly better with things like Airplane and things like that. So yeah, I liked it. I did like it. And it does take that interesting shift towards the end. For a time you think, oh, has the novelty just worn off? I'm not laughing anymore, but it is doing a deliberate shift to make it a message about family and stuff. There's a bit of a twist actually at the end with Del's character. But yeah, I did enjoy it. It's one to tick off the list. It's been there forever. And yeah, if you like that kind of film, that kind of slapstick, things going wrong time after time after time, then yeah, I do recommend that. Good, great performances. I think more than anything, it's the two leads.
Yeah, I need to rewatch this. I've only seen it once, but I remember really enjoying it. So it's definitely on my list. I'm trying to wait until a bit closer to kind of
Christmas.
December.
I was going to say, it's not Christmas film, but it is.
Do it in November, maybe, because that's around Thanksgiving, isn't it? So I'll do it around that time.
I wonder if they're trying to play up on the idea of thankfulness, I guess, that the message in the end with Dell and whatnot. Yeah, that's very good. I enjoyed it.
So the last one, is it the last one?
Yeah, I think so.
It is the last one. The last one on the list is Uncle Buck, another John Candy, and this is an actual starring role. He is he is Uncle Buck.
Title role.
So this is his movie, really.
How you doing?
Who are you?
I'm your Uncle Buck.
Do I have an uncle?
Unfortunately.
I'd never seen this. This was a first watch for me.
Oh, I hadn't either.
And it's a interesting film. It's got some good moments in it, but there were kind of moments that I didn't really get on board with so much. So this is a film about two really crap parents. I'm just going to say it now. They are crap parents. They have no idea what the kids want, who they are. There's just no relationship with them whatsoever. They're absolutely
Useless.
rubbish. So, I mean, I'm with the kids straight away. Macaulay Culkin's in this, one of his very early roles before Home Alone. And he's great. I really liked him.
Yeah, he's growing on me, I think.
Yeah. And Gabby Hoffman plays the other young kid. Yeah. And then you've got an older teenager called Tia. So the two younger ones are Miles and Maisie, and then you've got Tia, who's a teenager. She's about 15. And the mother's dad has a heart attack in the middle of the night, and they have to go. The parents have to go and see him, but they need someone to babysit, and there's just nobody else apart from the dad's brother Buck, who is like a grown-up man-child, who has no kind of responsibility, no steady job, no real responsibilities in life. He's kind of like, he gains most of his money through betting by the sounds of it. Not that we see any of it really, but you kind of get
they talk about horse racing quite a lot.
Yeah, that impression. And his girlfriend's played by Amy Madigan, who I really like. I like her and everything I've seen her. And she plays Shanice, his girlfriend, who like, I don't know what she's with him for really, because he is a bit of an idiot, and every time
he's nice enough, but he's not pulling his weight, is he?
Proves every time that he's just not,
not very reliable.
Yeah, so she just keeps coming back. I don't know what for, but she's good in this as well, and he ends up going and looking after the kids, and the teenager Tia, oh my god, she just hates him, absolutely hates him. Like, what are you doing to my life? Why are you here? He drives this awful car which is falling apart, and it makes this sound like a bomb going off every time it stops. And
I quite like that though. Every time he pulls up somewhere, you're waiting for it.
Yeah, and it's just so embarrassing for her. She's just in front of the school, and she's got this boyfriend who's an absolute dick, who's only out for one thing, obviously. And she doesn't realise, kind of the extent of it, but Buck does.
Yeah. She's trying to keep up those appearances again, isn't she? To fit in.
The kids kind of love him because there's, for Miles' birthday, there's a scene where he makes these huge pancakes, and I'm not talking like huge, I'm talking like enormous, like the entire
like sausages all around the base.
Yeah,
the sausages.
I mean, how could you not love someone like that? And he takes them bowling, and
I like it when when he stands up for, is it Maisie? I forgot her name. At the school.
That's what I was coming to that. So like, there are moments where, I mean, you can see Buck's a complete screw up, and like just as an example, he goes into the house and he sees he's got these decorative plates. Yeah. And he like drops one, and he's like, oh, shit, and he's like, oh, it must be shatterproof. So he smashes it against the side of the table, and it breaks. It's like, are you that stupid? So he's that kind of, I mean, that sums him up really as a person. But there are real moments when he excels. So he takes them bowling, and he like really kind of backs off this guy who's trying to kind of flirt with the teenager, and he's a proper bad. You can just tell he's a bad guy. And then he punches away the drunk birthday clown because it's not appropriate for kids. He's been drinking, so you can just get lost now, and he just beats the guy. He keeps Tia from doing anything with the boyfriend, like threatens the boyfriend and makes him feel really
Gets
uncomfortable.
his drill out and his
and he defends Maisie from the horrible vice principal, who's literally like, she's a 6-year-old and she's not serious enough. She's not taking her studies serious. It's like, are you serious? She's 6 years old, and he's like, what the hell is this? She's 6.
Yeah.
And he really kind of stands up for her, which I thought was great. So he does have these moments where he excels, and I think they're the best bits.
Yeah.
My biggest issue with this as a film is it doesn't really feel like it flows like a film. It's almost like a series of scenes, like funny moments.
It's that thing again. It's the way he's written. He's a writer of jokes, and then I think the story comes second and guides
so it doesn't flow like a movie, really. It feels like it's kind of a bit choppy.
Well, a lot of the films we've done, they'll always have a scene involving a car. They'll have a house party scene. They'll have a scene in the school. They'll probably have some kind of awkward dinner.
He knew what
follow
worked,
the same
and
patterns.
they were very successful. So it's like, right, well, okay, we've got to have this scene, and now we've got to have this scene. So he did very much in a way play it safe, and he knew,
like I said, they knew what worked though. There's a formula, isn't there?
Absolutely. But it works. It works.
Yeah,
it really
I
works,
like this one. I liked it more than I was expecting to.
I think this is why John Candy was so popular, is because he was so likable as an actor. He really comes across that nice guy, and he was apparently a really lovely guy, and it comes across on the screen. That really does come across, and I think that's what makes it work.
I've been impressed by the 2 films that I've watched with him in. He actually brought a lot of warmth to it, and John Hughes as well, just some of the ways that the character arcs go, and you could say the same for a lot of the films. With these ones, and I guess with any film that's like this, these popcorny entertainment films, I'm usually just very objective, but I think I kind of have to be a bit more subjective when I watch these, because they're not going to be the same. You can't really compare them to other types of film.
Yeah, this is no Sophie's Choice, or Gandhi.
It's no Sophie's Choice.
Very great filmmaking. It's not. That's not what they're made for.
Yeah,
it's not.
I think everybody kind of has different lists, don't they? The films that you rate highly because they're great films, and the ones you rate because they're your guilty pleasures and stuff like that. They would be on that list.
These very much fit into that list. Yeah, those ones that you would watch on a Sunday afternoon. Just something to make you feel relaxed. And, that it's that kind of atmosphere you're getting from these films. But it was good. It was worth doing because it was. None of them, like you say, you park your brain at the door almost. It's the 80s equivalent of that, really. Not big blockbusters in a sense, but just really easy watching. It requires nothing from you at all. You can just sit and watch them, and to be honest, that's quite nice sometimes to just be able to do that.
So that's 6 of his best known written and directed films. Is there one that we've talked about that you would recommend? Which one would go on the pedestal?
Oh, The Breakfast Club. Yeah, definitely.
That sounds right, doesn't it?
Definitely. There's a reason that one has lasted, and it's the one that people associate first when you say John Hughes, say Breakfast Club. There's a reason for that. It's very simple. Again, like most of his plots, it's 5 kids in a school with a teacher. You're in the school pretty much in one room for most of it. There's a little scene outside with a car or 2, and that's it.
The rest is sort of organic, isn't it?
It didn't require a lot, really. Lots of talking, but there are a lot of serious things in there. The pressures for kids, and the stereotypes and judging, and even to some extent, like the teacher and the janitor. It's like what you become and what your expectations are as when you become an adult, and and maybe them not meeting expectations of what you wanted from life. There's some interesting themes in there.
It's a good balance, I think. And sometimes it catches you off guard when some of the harder hitting stuff happens. I really like that. I guess for the sake of because it was the next one down that I rated. I'm going to say Ferris Bueller's Day Off. I think it's probably the other one for, cultural legacy alone.
They're probably the two most watched.
Yeah, probably.
Definitely.
Yeah. It's just, it's amazing that almost he's leaked out of the screen and he's become, I don't know, this, like I say, like a legendary figure. Do you remember that time Ferris had a day off? He's not real, but, it's fantastic. Shows the power of cinema, I guess, that you can seep into the cultural consciousness and stuff like that. So yeah, I'd go Ferris Bueller, I think, on this one.
Yeah.
Although I totally agree, Breakfast Club's better. so that, I think, is probably that.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's episode 50, John
50.
Hughes.
Yeah. If you've enjoyed it, subscribe. And funny old time. Yeah. And 50 more, I suppose, and then
yeah, just keep going. We'll just keep going.
We've got lots to cover. In fact, this might be a good time to. I don't know. Maybe we should save it for the end of the year.
Yeah,
we've looked at next year. That's what we'll say.
we've been looking at it. We're very excited. We're completely planned, pretty much all through
the whole year's planned. Yeah,
we're pretty much sorted.
I get very itchy, don't I? I have to
I
have to know.
Extremely organised.
It's when I'm looking at 2024. You should be worried. Next episode should be very interesting as well. It was going to be this one, but James Bond keeps moving.
Yeah, it keeps moving.
Yeah.
I think it's stopped now, though.
Yeah, I think hopefully it's stopped. Yeah, tickets are on sale and people are getting into their seats. So this will be interesting. I started watching them from scratch last year and had to stop when it got moved. So I've kind of forgotten everything that I watched, but I think it'll be quite a fun episode. We'll do some top 10 lists and stuff. More of a surface look at what each actor brought to the role, and different kinds of villains, different kind of plots that they had. We're definitely looking at the theme songs. We'll be doing a top list on the theme songs.
We will.
And looking obviously at Daniel Craig's time in particular, with it being the end of his, and if we've managed to see No Time to Die in time, then I'd be very happy to discuss that as well.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be a great film.
This is one for you. This is definitely a Matt episode. You are a huge Bond fan, so.
Wow. So I wouldn't say I'm a huge Bond fan.
Oh, I think compared to other people I know, like you know a lot about Bond.
Yeah, so that'll be exciting next. But in the meantime,
where can they find us, Matt?
Well, glad you asked, because you can find us. I don't remember on our website www.cinechat.co.uk/podcast, or across the social medias. Just search for CineChat Podcast, or you can email us at
podcast@cinechat.co.uk.
Well remembered. Not
remembered, it's sat in front of me. I have to get it up every time from memory like a sieve.
I remembered mine this time. Sort of. So yeah, James Bond next.
Very exciting.
We'll see you then, I suppose. Have a nice life.
It's bye for me.
Bye for me. So stupid.
You're still here? It's over. Go home.